What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Zach Moreno and Felder. Zach and Rock are the co-founders of Squadcast.fm and the hosts of the Between Two Mics podcast about how they found an opportunity to make a big difference in a crowded industry. Together, they are on a mission to amplify collaboration by making the process of recording podcasts as seamless and hassle-free as possible. Their innovative product is fast becoming the industry standard to record shows remotely in the best sound quality possible. Now, as you guys know, I love podcasting. It's everything I'm about. Because I bought a microphone 4.5 years ago, I can now become an entrepreneur, have the freedom I want, speak all over the country, and so much more. So podcasting was really my vehicle to create the life of my dreams. And so I love any chance that I get to sit down with individuals who are also in love with podcasting. And we get to talk about the craft. We get to talk how to be better, how to truly engage an audience, and how to do all these things in order to grow a business. And I think you guys are going to love this conversation I have with these two gentlemen. I truly do. Now, before we get there, I want to remind you guys that this week, this Friday, is the Growth Now Summit, a virtual experience that I've put together specifically for you. Tickets are only $29 and they are still available. So head over to gnmlive.com/virtual and get your tickets today. Get your tickets, register, and come see the incredible speakers. Again, that's gnmlive.com/virtual. I cannot wait to see you there. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Zach and Rock. Hey, fellas, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Justin?
Thanks for having us on.
This is going to be fun, and here's why. There's been times on my show where I've interviewed more than one person at a time. Not many times, but I have. But they've all been couples. They've been like married couples and relationship experts. You guys are kind of like a couple, just in a completely different way. And you guys are business partners, and you've built out something called Squadcast, which I've known about now for a number of years through the podcast circles. And every time I hear about it, it gets better and better reviews. My podcast friends are like, it's such a great tool. The sound quality is incredible, blah, blah, blah. And I'm one of those people that I need to get to the source. So I'm excited to have this conversation, learn more about it from you guys, and kind of go from there. But let's start with you guys' journey a little bit. How did you get to where you are right
now? It's been quite a road, and Rock and I, our personal relationship transcends Squadcast and being co-founders with one another. So we're rooted in friendship. We go way back to high school, but always finding ways to collaborate and work on creative projects together. And Rock actually introduced me to podcasting as a listener, and that's kind of the spark that later, many years later, came full circle to wanting to do a creative side project as a podcast creator. And then that's really what was the catalyst for us finding this set of challenges when it comes to recording quality content remotely from anywhere in the world. And that turned into a business, as you can imagine, because lots of people have that same challenge. And we have this amazing opportunity to help in service of the podcast community. And that's really where we got to take our friendship to a new place, and have been really, I think good from that perspective as well. I think our relationship is healthy in a number of ways, but certainly new areas that we've grown into together, like learning lots of new things as a startup founder. You're always kind of thrust into situations where you need new information. So, I think we both excel in that environment.
For sure. No, I want to dive into this a little bit as far as you guys choosing each other as business partners. I think a lot of people go into, and I've been in business with business partners and it's all been amicable when it ended and all the things in between, but you need to be really specific on who you're going to venture into that with, right? It is like a marriage with massive financial consequences. Hopefully you get to that point where there are massive financial consequences and all those other things in between. So what made, and I'll ask you, Rock, first, what made you look at Zach and go, when this idea came about, this made sense beyond just the idea. It made sense of like, I'm going to lock in with this guy and build this thing out. What was the thought process? What did you look for?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. And it's something that, we weren't, I don't want to say that we were each totally intentional about. I think it was, Zach has described it to me as it was a list of one. I didn't even have a list. Like I was just really hoping that I just had this burning desire to do something more creative, entrepreneurial, independent. I've always had a really deep interest for business and for the finance accounting aspect of things. So that's where I started off my career. But just getting exposed to different executives and founders made me think like, well, maybe I can do that. And I started reflecting back on my dad and his brothers back in the day before I was born. They had their own business, and all the stories that they would talk about trying to make those decisions were like fascinating to me. And I think it's something that I didn't put a whole lot of thought into only until recently, of like, that gave me encouragement to believe that that's in my blood and I want to do it. But I didn't know what I was going to do, with who. So for me, it was like extremely special when someone like Zach did ask me, or rather he presented the idea that he had for Squadcast and then said, "Hey, I need a co-founder and I would like for you to be that." And I was like, I've been waiting for this, man, and the thing about Zach is because we've been friends for 10 years, I've seen him, and he's seen me. We've grown up and made it through college and had pretty good careers. I saw him set all these crazy goals for himself, and one after another, he would just reach them. So that was working at Google. Boom. He did that in his early 20s. He wrote a book in his early 20s. And you just stop doubting somebody like that. And so when he kind of comes with an idea that later became Squadcast, the fact that it was rooted in podcasting was something that was extremely exciting for me, because I was already a fan and a big listener and always wondering, like, why aren't more people listening to it? Why do so many people not even know what a podcast is? And this was still 2016 when he approached me about it. And I think the other little thing about it was we did see podcasting becoming much bigger and much more popular than what it was even in 2016, even though to us, we were already big time fanatics. But also something that I think, again, wasn't as intuitive to us, something that we were just fortunate enough to experience in our previous careers, was this idea of collaborating and working remotely. That was something that I don't think was a big leap for either of us, to think people are going to want to create content remotely and they're going to want to do it in high quality. And there really didn't seem to be a true service that was doing that the way that the podcast community wanted and needed. And so it was really more so us being, just getting in agreement that this is something we want to do. And I remember one of the first videos I watched on like starting a startup. It's like, this is like a 8 to 10 year commitment that you're getting yourself into. I remember calling up Zach and I was like, dude, I just watched one of the videos. They said 8 to 10 years. Are you sure we can do this? Like,
I've done nothing that long, literally.
Yeah.
But I think it was a great way to just kind of set the tone mentally of like, this is a long-term project. And, I believe that he would become what he needed to become the CEO that we all hoped and dreamed that Squadcast would need. And so it really became, I just got to keep leveling up to keep up with him. And I think we've done actually a pretty good job of doing that. Not to toot our own horn, but we're still around. So that's how I grade it.
Yeah, dude. And honestly, in the technology world, I guess that's where you guys fall under, right? Like the technology world, it is. I mean, to be around for 4 years and continuously grow, like that's a massive accomplishment. And I love you brought up, when you think about podcasting, I love that you brought up in 2016, people are like, what's a podcast? Because I jokingly say all the time, when I started a podcast, I'd say to somebody, oh, I host a podcast. And they go, what's a podcast? Now in 2020, I say I host a podcast and they go, you too? So like it is exploded. Wow. It's exploded over the last 4 years. And obviously I'm grateful for that because the listeners have grown and everything else in between. And I'm sure you guys are super grateful. But what was it about podcasting that drew you to it 4 years ago? Because look, I mean, when you look at the statistics of listenership,
it's still very small. I mean, it's 28%
Mm-hmm.
of the American, and somebody will spin it and say, wow, there's still millions of people that listen, which is true, but it's still only 28% of the American population. Whereas you look at YouTube, it's 99% of the American population that watches that, right?
Lots of
So
headroom.
it's crazy. But like, when you look at that, what drew you guys to podcasts? Is it the fact that you happen to listen to some and you're like, I love this, I want to be a part of this, or what was it?
We were big fans. We had experienced the magic. How I think about how I listen to podcasts, and this is something that I've come to learn is unique to different people. They approach the medium in different ways for different reasons. So my personal reason is more in line with a love of learning, and I started to see podcasting as a step towards personalized education, where I could dive deep very quickly and very efficiently into a very obscure topic and go from 0 to 60 rapidly. And that's a pretty compelling value proposition from an audience perspective.
Yeah.
So I had experienced that firsthand. Rock had experienced that, and has his own reasons. So that's what was the catalyst for getting for kind of driving me to wanting to make the jump from listener to an active participant in creating a podcast with the science fiction audio drama. So it was a combination really of seeing the magic of podcasting, having done a bunch of creative work across mediums in my education and career, with things like painting and sculpture, and just I love exploring new mediums to express creativity. And that was kind of one of the facets. The other one was a little bit of burnout with my software engineering career within the government. Caused me to kind of want to take
exhausting.
a step. Yeah, I mean, now that I look back on it, it's like, wow, I was so well rested, and it was great. It was a bit of like, I had always had this habit of doing creative side projects, but they tended to manifest within software engineering and design. So I more so wanted to say, okay, I want to take a step back from doing another software project. I want to do a creative side project in a completely new medium. And that's really, that timing is really important, because that is when Wired Magazine, I'll give credit, wrote an article that was like, there's this new genre within podcasting called audio dramas, and here's our top 10 science fiction audio dramas, which I am a huge fan of science fiction. So it was kind of a marrying of these two worlds that I loved independently. And it just like was like really obvious to me when I read that, was like, wow, podcasting, if my podcast app were a bookstore and I walked in, it would be all nonfiction. So where's the fiction section of the library? And that's really what the audio drama genre brings into podcasting. And I immediately started devouring those early audio dramas. And that's really where it's like, well, we can make one of these. Like, we have all of the prerequisite skills that you could want, and we have those at a high level. So those being, web development, audio engineering, storytelling, writing. And my brother Vince is a audio engineer, and my good friend Harrison is a decorated playwright, and I had written some published work as well. So, that's a pretty great place to be starting from, just kind of on the surface. But it really turned into, because that early team was distributed geographically, that's really what landed us in this research project of, we just kept assuming it was a solved problem, because podcasting had been around for years before then. And it just turned out that nobody was happy with the solutions that were available in the market. There was this opportunity, and then I'll come back to timing with our technology as well. That's a big factor.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the evolution of podcasting is unbelievable. I mean, you look at a lot of these guys who are, I hate to say it, but a little bit older in the podcast game, more middle-aged. They were like the old radio DJs who got into so they had the studio, they had the access, and they were doing these podcasts that nobody knew what they were. And it was extremely expensive to do it. And now it's become more and more affordable, easier. You can pretty much do them from everywhere. And you guys kind of lend to that doing it from everywhere thing, because that's been a massive issue in stuff that I've done. Is like, okay, I need to make sure everything's perfect for the sound to sound okay. Whereas you guys kind of navigate that a little bit better with Squadcast. So let's talk a little bit about that, like what the approach was, what was the ideas behind how you built it out. What's the back end stuff of Squadcast, and why is it such a better sound quality?
Yeah, well, we can get into the nitty gritty of what makes Squadcast unique and different beneath the surface. But at the surface level, we wanted it to be very easy and actually fun for a host and a guest to connect. So that's why it is a browser-based app. So you can use Chrome or Firefox and send your guest a link, and all they have to do is click that link, and then they're boom, right there in the virtual cloud studio with you. And we realize that a lot of guests, one, they're really busy folks. It's pretty time consuming just to schedule these interviews, let alone plan for it. And then, have the 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you have allotted for that actual interview. But so that time is precious and it needs to work. And we don't want the guest who's typically not the most familiar with recording audio or software. We don't want them overwhelmed or just worried about how to use the tech. So it's, very easy on them, and then easy enough for the podcaster to get the highest quality possible without having to wrestle with the tech too much either. Because if it's all working out great, you shouldn't even be thinking about Squadcast. You should be just so engaged with that conversation and having such a good time with that the technology just, kind of falls in the background. So at the surface level, it's pretty simple, to be quite honest. It's very similar to a Zoom call like we're on now, except quality is not a setting with us. It is a default. You are coming to Squadcast because you care deeply about audio quality. You take your show very seriously. You take your guests very seriously. So you want them to sound good as well. And you're very mindful of your audience. What we're producing here is going to go into people's ears. So we really want to, give them the best product possible, because it can be pretty irritating and disrupting. And I think, you can't expect them to stick around and just put up with bad audio quality, even if your content is kick butt, which I know yours is, Justin. And so as far as what goes on under beneath the surface, I think it's something that, to be honest, as first time founders and not folks with marketing in our background, that has been the challenge of communicating what is different. Why does audio quality matter? How to get the most out of a remote interview without having to do all this difficult stuff. So I'll kick it over to you, Zach, because you've been a huge part of really, making it seem like, on the surface, it's pretty straightforward and easy, but underneath it, we know a lot's going on, right?
Yeah, maybe we're guilty of it being a little too simple sometimes, I'll say, but we have a deep appreciation and love for design. So I think that manifests in the experience that Rock just described. But it really does come back to every decision, both design or technical, having that emphasis on audio quality. And then I'll add a second factor where even if I did empower you and your guests to record the best audio quality you've ever heard, if you never actually got that file, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So we define that as reliability, is always making sure that you sound great and you actually get those files. So our engineering constraints, really to meet those two needs, come to life in a bunch of interesting ways that have necessitated us to invent some new and novel technology. And that's not something that we expected when we first started this, but I'm grateful for those opportunities now with 2 patents pending. So there is legit differences with our technology, and I'll sum those up in quality. So we start there by capturing everybody's audio at the source, so straight from their mouth into the microphone, and then it's recorded. So we think of this as organic audio. It's more important what we're not doing to it than some sort of magical AI that's making you sound, really, really good. You sound good, right, already, and we just need to preserve that. So That's what we do. We capture it at the source for each individual who's connected to the conversation. And then the reliability piece is in the background while you're enjoying a great flowing conversation. In the background, that audio for every person is being uploaded to the cloud in the background and in kind of an autosave fashion. So that's the reliability piece coming to life, where our progressive upload technology records you locally, pushes it up to the cloud in the background, and then that gives you a huge amount of resiliency and fault tolerance when it comes to real world situations that can come up, like to name a few: microphones getting unplugged, power going out, internet service providers going down, somebody starting to stream Twitch in the other room. All of this stuff happens in real life. So we embrace that reality, and we've engineered a system to be tolerant in all of those different environments to make sure you're always getting that audio. So what I just described is our primary recording engine. We also have a backup recording engine in addition to that. So if for some reason, less than 1% of the time, that primary engine fails, we have a backup that's completely independent and separate from that. And between those two different decoupled kind of audio recording engines, we always deliver high quality content for everybody who's connected to the conversation. And that's really the sweet spot that we've been able to empower podcasters to have that high degree of confidence when it comes to recording quality conversations with guests. Like last I checked was over 120 countries we had helped people record in.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. So obviously you guys had mentioned,
Thank you.
I forget who it was, and I apologize, but somebody had mentioned that you guys aren't, you don't have a marketing mind. It's like you didn't enter this with a marketing mind. Like, you came from finance, you came from the tech world. I don't hear marketing in either of those ever. But you guys obviously have grown drastically over the last 4 years. You continuously like I said, I've heard of you. I've seen you multiple times. I've done all the things. What has been your marketing tactic? Because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurial minds that may listen to the show who go, I have this great idea. I know how to execute on it, but I don't understand the marketing side. So what was your way of doing it? Was it outsourcing? Was it navigating, doing the research? What did you guys do to start marketing this company?
Yeah, it was just really learning it all on our own as we go. And I think it's been a topic that each of us have really tried to develop personally, and then also kind of a team. It's something that we're just always learning, like how to position yourself and why it is so important to pick a niche and the power of focus and stuff like that. And so, but a lot of our when they say like hand-to-hand combat type of marketing strategies, it's really just been engagement with the community any way that we can. We're fortunate enough that Squadcast is a very collaborative platform. So it wasn't intuitive to us at first, but once the light switch went off where we can use our app to connect and build relationships with our customers or partners, we started doing that like crazy. But also, we were big on going to where your audience is. So going to major events like Podcast Movement or Podfest was a big part of how we really learned from the community, built relationships with the community. So in a lot of ways, it's pretty old school, where we would just talk to people. We'd take some of those, the godfathers, the podfathers, if you will, all the pod people that came before us. We would take them out to lunch and talk to them. And again, it was all about just building a reputation for the long term, and not just trying to, get little things for the short term. We're always thinking about the long term in mind. And we've definitely had a lot of help as far as marketing goes, whether it comes from our advisors like Harry Duran of Podcast Junkies and Fullcast. We also work with Pat Flynn and Esprit Devora and Jordan Harbinger. So having folks like that who kind of, it does come a little bit more natural for them, or they're just more skilled at it, is certainly helpful. But also I think it's good for us because we are a self-funded company, and many podcasts are essentially little self-funded companies themselves that are where they're forced to wear a lot of hats. So I think for us, it actually was beneficial because we were kind of the same people, just doing it in different ways. And it really, I think, helped us connect with them in a really good way. And now it's even better that we're behind the mic. We have a podcast of our own, Between Two Mics, where Zach and I are co-hosts of that. So it's It's just about building relationships for me. And I think it's something that I really enjoy. I'm sure Zach, you enjoy it too. Am I missing anything about as far as our, how we did market?
Yeah, there's some things like you said that weren't obvious to us that our product or our strategy help with marketing. So a big one of that is to kind of continue about the reliability that helps preserve our reputation, which we are always working to foster. So I don't think we think about it as marketing. We think about it more as like reputation and community building, and really delivering our value proposition every time. And if you get those things right, then the reputation spreads. Like word of mouth is how podcasts grow. So we have the good fortune of being in this industry and being active members of the and participants in the community. So that same word of mouth helps us grow. And if I had to attribute it to anything, it would be the relationship building and community building that Rock shared. But in addition to that, there's this metric in startup land called viral cycle time. And we didn't know this. We didn't design for this, but we found out after the fact that applications where somebody invites somebody else to use it with them grow organically much faster because they're getting, if you're a guest on Squadcast, like you have been in the past, Justin, I think you shared for Jeremy Ryan Slate's podcast before we started recording. You essentially, in that recording, of course, you created an awesome sounding remote interview together for his audience, but you also, as a podcaster, got kind of a passive demo to Squadcast. And that has helped grow our awareness and spread over time. So even those advisor relationships that Rock shared, some of those have come about in that organic fashion, where I believe it was Eric Hunley's Unstructured podcast had Jordan Harbinger on as a guest. And Jordan asked after they recorded, what is Squadcast? And like, can I get these files? Like, what do we sound awesome? Like, why are we doing this way? And that has really been something that that we've been able to leverage and really continue to build out that reputation organically.
No, that's awesome. So, when I look at podcasting and the future of it, I mean, 4 years ago when I started, I certainly didn't think it would be what it is, right? I honestly, when I hopped on, I didn't even know what it was. I was that accidental, entrepreneur, podcaster guy, all the things. And so now that I'm in it and I've been in masterminds about podcasting and I've run masterminds about podcasting and I've taught it and I've learned it and I continue to learn it, obviously I keep an eye on the trends and everything. And so when I look at it now, and this is my take and I'd love to get your take, I think the massive growth we're going to see in podcasting now going forward, the last jump, the original jump was, oh, hey, it got easy. I'm going to go do it. Then there was that jump of which we're coming to an end of like celebrities hopping on board because they're like, oh, this is another branding tool, or like, celebrities or even large organizations saying, hey, we want a podcast now. It's another marketing arm. It's this, that, and the other thing. I believe the next big wave in podcasting is due to the fact that we don't get censored. We can talk about whatever we want. It doesn't get bleeped. It doesn't get magically erased like Facebook posts these days and everything else. And I think that's going to cause the next wave in podcasting or the next big boom in podcasting. What is your take? Because I imagine you guys watch these types of things and these trends. What's your take on the future of podcasting? Is it going to grow? Is it going to be stagnant? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think that it will continue to grow. And that was always our hypothesis, was that it is going to get bigger, that more people, as access to podcasts, access and awareness got more, I think, was our hypothesis, that it would continue to grow, and that once people got the bug or experienced the magic, that most people that get into podcasts, they get really into it. So we thought most people would follow that kind of similar path. But you're right. The space has changed quite a bit. One of the things that we've seen is that the types of listener habits and behaviors are certainly changing now that it's becoming more generally used by folks. So a lot of people that first came to podcasting were kind of like Zach, which is where I fit into as well, where it's very like knowledge seeking. You want to learn more about a particular topic. You want to dive deep on a particular topic that maybe you're not going to hear on the radio or on YouTube or something like that. Maybe on YouTube you would, but definitely not on the radio. Now we're seeing a lot of people are coming to listen to podcasts as like a form of relief or escape or entertainment. And it's not so much just on like, I need to get facts on how to be better at X, or I want to learn more about Y. It's, I need to escape all this stuff. So the content is becoming much more entertainment based. And it's, I think it is really exciting though, because that is the best part about podcasting is you can make it about whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, whether you want listeners or not. That really doesn't matter. Whether you make money directly from it or not, that doesn't matter. A lot of times the benefits that you get from podcasting are not really financial. They are very, it's like this, relationship equity that you build. I mean, the relationships that you build with people that you're interviewing is crazy, let alone with building an audience and having that kind of opportunity. I think it's very exciting with all the, I just think it's exciting to hear more people talking about podcasting, more people excited about podcasting. Obviously Spotify and Sirius and all the activity that they're doing, I think has helped ramp that up. We're seeing a lot of companies starting to use podcasting and they're not like shopping around or dabbling. They're more so like, we want to do it and here's what we want to do. It's usually either some type of external, maybe like marketing reasons that they're doing it, or it's like internal communication based stuff. So that's what is exciting to me, is that it seems like every company is going to have not just a podcast, but probably multiple podcasts for multiple use cases. And then as far as individuals go, I think we're figuring out that is kind of becoming I don't know if it'll become as ubiquitous, I guess, as a social media account, but it seems like it might be going there, where it's just going to be part of the digital footprint, part of the show offering that we're seeing, that your listeners or audience is going to be, some of them are going to be on YouTube, some of them are going to be on social media, some of them are going to be podcast listeners. And so there's opportunities, and that we at Squadcast are hoping to help content creators with, that they can be everywhere and meet their audience wherever they are and still deliver the highest quality content possible.
For sure. No, I love that, man. It's fun because of this podcast. You talked about relationship building. I get the opportunity to speak to some of the world's most successful people, however you want to define success. So my question for you guys, I don't know how you're going to answer this because I don't think I've ever thrown it out to two people at once. What is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you guys do as an organization, as a company, every single day to ensure that success for yourself and for your customers?
Yeah, I think about how we define success at Squadcast is amplifying creativity through collaboration. So kind of 2 heads better than one, but applied to the improv nature that adds to the content that you're creating. So if you're just in a vacuum creating, you're going to run out of stuff to talk about or explore eventually, not all at once, but your creative potentials get maximized when you're collaborating and creating with others. So I think that's a big one. And to kind of dive deeper into that, the cultural aspect that we define within our team is this emphasis on being an active listener and really practicing listening as a skill. And in the podcast world and community, we tend to think very deeply about speaking and how our pace and our diction and our delivery and all of these different, the actual content, the words that we're speaking. But I would posit that listening is equally important to how we speak. And that is something that our company has really brought to life by listening to the needs of the podcast community and just getting out of the way and giving them the tools that they want. It's really as simple as that. And then we repeat that cycle over and over and over again of seeking feedback, listening very deeply, processing and kind of combining all of the feedback from across the different diverse voices that we get to collaborate with in the community, and then really distilling that down into some facet of our value proposition and our technology, our product, our design. So I think about it as amplifying creativity through collaboration, and that creation and collaboration is really empowered by this listening practice, this active listening practice.
Awesome. I love this conversation. I love being able to dive into podcasting and what people think, where it's going. Obviously you guys are in the trenches, and I know I have a ton of listeners that are also podcast hosts themselves. So let's get to the important stuff. How do people get a hold of Squadcast? How do they download it? How do they subscribe? What's the whole thing so they can start using your platform?
Yeah, so the best place to find us is on our website. It's squadcast.fm, and there's a ton of resources there that are, helpful just to be a better podcaster, not necessarily using Squadcast. Of course, we'd love to help out with that, but it's really, we see it as our position to really help podcasters be better when it comes to recording a remote conversation. And there's a lot of things that you can help yourself with in the hardware and software department, but there's also some stuff that maybe aren't as intuitive that are not hardware and software related. So we have a bunch of resources that can help out with that, along with information about how to use the product and what the benefits are. Everyone that signs up does get a seven-day trial. You have unlimited use on it. We really want you to get really comfortable and confident the next time you have a remote interview. And again, just have fun with it. So it's squadcast.fm. We're also active on all the major social channels. It's at squadcast.fm. So we're pretty, again, like we've said, relationship building is a huge deal to us. So we're here for you. We're excited to help out.
Awesome. I love it. So obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement, and I wrap up every single interview with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth? And so for you guys, since we're really talking about your business, what's been the biggest growth moment inside of your business?
Well, our product, I'll answer for, and then if you want to take the business side, Rock, or I can do both. But the product side was this moment where the progressive upload technology that I mentioned before, that wasn't a home run on the first attempt. It took 10, maybe more attempts to really get that right. And we actually rolled it out on the 9th, thinking that it was in a good place and confident that it would land on its feet. And it did for the most part, but it didn't at the same time. And there was a huge issue with it. And to top it off, we were in the midst of sponsoring Podcast Movement in Philadelphia when we decided to launch this. So that was the only time in my career, Squadcast or otherwise, that I've had to roll back and update. And that was a tremendous growth opportunity for me, because it really drove home what's at stake. Our technology empowers people, yes, but if not stewarded in a very careful fashion, that it could actually have the opposite effect. And that's something that we have learned that lesson, and have not had that problem since. So that was a huge growth opportunity. And then do you want to take the company side, Rock?
Yeah, happy to, man. I think maybe I need to get over this a little bit, but I'm still feel like we're just such in positive territory because we have this opportunity where we took something that was, literally zero. And from the days we got a first dollar from a customer that wasn't our parents, it was like, this is incredible, man. And then to continue to a point where, now we're paying, we had 5 people that are part of the founding team, as we call them, who really started it off from pretty much day one with us. The ability to pay all 5 of us really good salaries is incredible, because there was a time period where Zach and I were working on Squadcast nights and weekends, and then we went a year and a half maybe without a salary, just to make the jump and really focus on it full time, because we got the business to a point where we had so many customers, we had to service them, and we needed our full attention. But we just weren't, financially secure enough to do that, because we are, again, a bootstrapped, self-funded company. So maybe that's the most difficult part, was trying to navigate that world as a startup when, we're in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. So all the talk of our fellow peers is about raising money. And to us, the game has never been that way. Like we've always, it's a tool, but it's not the entire game. The entire game to us is making customers happy and having them pay us for it, that they think is fair, of course. So I would think that's like the biggest part, is just figuring out how to make it work with our own money, essentially money that we've earned.
Yeah, no, I love it. I've loved this conversation, guys. It's been insightful. I love, I've known about you guys for quite some time, and you can tell, especially when you're in an online space and a business in some way, shape, or form, you can tell when things are working versus when people are pretending that it's working. And I love seeing you guys grow over the last couple of years. And I will definitely be checking out your platform now that we're able to sit down and have a conversation, and excited to see what you guys roll out in the future. Is there anything else you guys want to add? I know that you're rolling out something exciting that we didn't talk about, but let's kind of circle back around to that. You guys are adding like a video feature, right?
That's right. Yeah, we are tremendously excited about it. And again, it's rooted in listening and feedback from the community. And that's the ability to not just record the audio for your podcast, but also to record the video in parallel to the audio. And that's really in an effort to continue to amplify the creative possibilities when it comes to the same 2-hour long conversation that you're enjoying with your guest. And you're walking away with more content possibilities, being able to reach your audience in more places, whether that's your podcast and or YouTube or anywhere you want to publish that content. You now will have that ability to walk away with the audio and the video. And we find that tremendously exciting because it really empowers podcasters to think about their content strategy as like a multi-content strategy or a show, as we've started calling it, where it's bigger than a podcast. And even a podcast is bigger than a podcast, right? It's also a website and social media and branding. And like Rock said, it's kind of got a lot of the same parallels as a startup. So thinking about your content strategy in that way is a way to really reach your audience in more places. And whether they can watch your video, like we sometimes are able to do, and or listen to it when that's more their preference. So it's really just giving you that ability to meet your audience where they're at and delivering that in a really high quality way, which is what our reputation and our reason for existence really is to provide that quality content to give you those creative possibilities. So that is right around the corner, and we're tremendously excited to be able to not just provide the audio service that we have, keeping that foundation and building on top of it with the addition of also recording video.
Awesome. Fellas, thank you so much for taking the time out, having this conversation. I appreciate you. Guys, go check them out. I will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Justin.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.